Welcome to the AI Talk Show. I'm Asha Saxena, and I want to start a little differently today. I'm your host, CEO and founder of Builder, World Leaders in Data and AI. I've been hosting this show for a while now, and we've been discussing about why AI pilots haven't been scaling. We talk to leaders and we talk about what needs to be better. Is it the foundation? Is it the culture? And a lot of times we talk about how culture could be a barrier. And every time we talk to the guest, we talk about their experiences. What are they thinking about? What the intentions are when they're thinking about launching these projects. So today I want to go somewhere different, a little different. I want to talk about what we have not been really touching on, and to discuss a lot more about AI and the infrastructure and what needs to be done as we think about AI pilots. My guest today is Saurabh Shrivastava. He leads global solution architecture for agentic AI and legacy transformation at AWS. He's helped build AWS transform long-standing organizations, mainframe, 40-year-old mainframe into cloud systems, into a lot faster than you expected. He's also a published author. He holds patents. He spent 20 years inside, I would call it probably engine rooms of enterprise technologies, where you don't advertise from outside, but all actually walk into the building and build these solutions. So Saurabh, I want to start with something I genuinely can't figure out. But before we get started, I want to welcome you to the show and just maybe learn a little bit about your background before we get started.
Okay. Thank you, Asa. Thank you for having me. I'm flattered with the introduction already. So just to quick start, as you said, a 20 plus year in the enterprise organization and last 10 plus year in the AWS and Amazon, working in front of the cutting edge technology. And I have seen the evolution when the industry is moving from the application to the data to the machine learning and now generative AI to the agentic AI, and how the enterprises are adopting it. And I think this is the most challenging time, while it is exciting time also, because technology is not only changing like every week, I will say, right? It is so fast, it's hard to catch up. There is lots of confusion. And happy to hear in the show to talk about the challenges and how to move forward with the new era of the generative AI.
That's great. And I think I want to start, right from where we are today. As you said, the technology is moving so fast. And a lot of times when I meet with people, their first question is, how do you keep up with it? But even before that, people are saying that, yes, we've taken this journey, but we are struggling. And you work with a large organization like AWS, which is the leader in creating infrastructures, one of the most trusted names in enterprise technology. And you have the infrastructure, you have the tools with AWS, you have the customer relationships. But when there's a study that came out, IDC found that about 33 AI pilots, when organizations are starting, only 4 make it to production. You're working with customers and you probably hear and see this kind of statistics. First of all, do you truly believe that this is a real number? And what's happening? Why these deployments are failing? We've talked about in the episode that might not be the customer's fault, might not be technology, it's the leadership. But what does that actually look like when you are in the organization? Where do you think and why do you think these organizations are failing in deploying and scaling the AI?
So I think this is kind of the same evaluation happened when we moved from on-premise to cloud, and I was in front seat there. It was like a last decade. And at the same time, I joined the AWS also. So I have seen that. Now, I see that there is a little hangover there, right? So people are still thinking the generative AI, which launched 2 years ago, is the shiny object. Okay, I can do this. It's like you give you put the little kid into the candy land, and they want to do everything, right? But in last 2 years, I have seen that generative AI has been in front line and become very matured. And when it is very matured, it means stop uh, treating this as a technology gap, but focus on the execution gap. And that is true. As you said, lots of things stuck into the pilot and it is not going into the production. Okay. And the main reason is the last mile. So in pilot, maybe data scientist team building a very good model and it is giving 85% of accuracy. And it's not like they're using the frontier model, training with the RAG and prompt engineering and the industrial data and all those things. But when it comes to the production, it is about the building the integration layer. So we need to move away from the pilot culture and put the production discipline and need to change the KPI also a little bit, right? Currently, the innovation team rewarded as how many pilots they are launching. It should be how many of these pilots is getting integrated with the production system.
Right.
The third issue, I see that the data readiness is also a problem. We have heard a lot about the data lake, and data lake is like storing the data. And agentic AI is not about data storage. It's about getting the data ready for the production grade operation. And when anyone is building the demo, they should ask, okay, so what? If I am building something, what it is going to change, what behavior it is going to change. If it is not changing anything, it is just a demo. It is not going into production. It is changing any decision making. So there is lots of food for thought here. The how to embed the Gen AI into a execution gap and not stay on the technology gap.
I like that a lot because I think there's a lot of really, everybody's excited about the shiny object. Everybody wants to start the pilots. When I'm working with clients, I'm always saying that, are you really thinking about which is your high value, high reward project? Which one is actually going to get you across the line? Where is really the right KPIs to measure? Can you create the scale, which is really important? So I really agree with you that really thinking what your KPIs are becomes really important as you're thinking about launching the products. I want to go to something what you wrote on LinkedIn, which I thought was really interesting. You said agentic memory isn't just what a system knows, it's what it carries forward. And I thought that was really interesting because most teams get this wrong because they design memory like a database when they should design it like more like a decision layer. But here's what I want to kind of push on. Most of the enterprises you work with, they don't even have the clean data. They have 40-year-old siloed systems, they're working with data that are 3 different teams own and nobody really fully trusts. And you're talking about designing sophisticated agentic memory and building this architecture on top of this infrastructure that is built before even the internet existed. You that really, at what point do you think a customer should say honestly that or you should say to the customer honestly that you're not ready for this yet? Does this conversation really happen in the real world? Like, do you actually go into the customer and say that we need to get you ready, your systems are really old, the data is all over the place? And if you do land up having that conversation, what does it look like? Like, what conversation leaders should be having before deploying these AI solutions?
Yeah, so as you say that there is a different thought process required. Again, I will take the analogy. When people were working in on-prem infrastructure and bringing to the cloud, it was completely different system. It was on-demand pricing, and
Right.
there was a lots of bells and whistles need to tweak, like serverless architecture, cloud-native architecture, which gives them the real benefit. If you'll put the same architecture which was on-prem and put into the cloud, it is not going to cut it, right? It may be not that efficient what people are expecting saving from the cloud. And you took pick the right topic, same like the if I will take the memory topic and then I will go to the data. If you will see in the agentic AI architecture, we are not automating, we are delegating. So first people need to understand that. So automating is the deterministic process where you have the set of script and they do whatever is written in the procedure, if else condition and all. But when you are delegating, it's like you are onboarding a new team members, and that new team members you define the boundary, the trust boundary, what they should not do, because you are delegating them. And then you obviously have the oversight as a human and loop to see that how it will go. Now, if you will see if you are, I'm building a distributed agentic architecture because the enterprise are the complex, one agent will not work. When agent is talking one agent to other agent, then the context is changing. Are the agent able to pass the context from one agent to other agent? Or they are kind of moving away from the context because data is changing, right? And if data is changing and the agent is not adhering to that data, then whole model will be whole output will be different. And see if each agent have the little drift in the context. So within the individual agent, they may be performing very well, right? But when you put them together and their context is drifting from one agent to other agent, after going through the agent distribution, five distributed agent loop, it will be completely different things. So here, like when we are treating the memory, whether it is long-term memory and short-term memory, very different thought process required because it is more probabilistic than the deterministic. And that's
Right.
where we need to put the trusted boundary, guardrail. We need to redesign the process around the agents. We don't need to force fit the old process. Okay, let's push the agent there and see if it will work. So I think that's the main problem is happening today.
A lot of it sounds like, there are several steps before you can actually get the execution, get the output,
Right.
the infrastructure, the agent to agent, the memory, the output, the having the right KPIs, and then scaling it. I was at a conference last week, and a lot of the leaders were saying that AI gives you the promise of creating efficiency, all this benefit, but we seem to be spending a lot more time building and investing in AI than seeing any results so far. What is
Right.
your thought on that?
I will say AI is definitely promising, and but at the same time, I took I worked with the enterprise, kind of do the AI assessment readiness, and we advise them, okay, where they are ready or what five steps they need to do to get it ready, right? And the main things I see, if you take this AI agent, right, and then give it to say that, okay, from today, every developer has the AI agent, use that. This is going to be a big problem from cost perspective. They are not free. The token is expensive, and
Right.
everyone is started spitting out these millions of lines of code, throwing into it, and might be multiple times in a day. The first the things the cost is going to blown out, right?
For
And
sure.
that's I see a lot, right? That, oh, it is becoming very costly. We thought it will save because there is no guardrail. Same like if you put someone say that, hey, you have unlimited server, go spin up whatever you want to do, right? People will go and even if they need a 16 GB RAM, everyone will go and spin up like 64 GB RAM, right?
That's true.
So that is one thing. Other things is there is a way to optimize the token to build the memory layers, and but we have to have very structured organization there. And again, I said this operational rigor is required there, and that operational rigor is required in terms of the way we are managing the data. In data today, if you will see, people put the authentication, they put the blast radius, they want to roll back, and they put the observability on that. Okay, who is assessing, how it is assessing, put the cache there. The same way we need to put into the Gen AI also. And I think there is the four architectural layer, the data access layer, where we are not talking just about the data storage, how we have the API integration and all, and how it is going to reduce the token users. If you are assessing the right data, putting into the vector database, then it is getting the right context, and there will be less and less prompt will be there. And so should not be just a data lake, but it should be governed catalog should be there. Permission
Right.
we talked about, memory we talked about, observability we talked about. So common gap I see, people invested in the model, but they are under invested in the connecting tissues like API, permission evaluation, which is hurting the organization more than benefiting it.
That's very interesting. Yeah. So really investing in this connective layer, not only focusing on what the output looks like, or there are a lot of small wins though. Saurabh, I'm sure you see, when they're launching what large organizations are providing the large language models or small language model, customizing these AI projects that they have. But if you think about it, I want to go back to these legacy systems that needs to be optimized. Maybe let's look at an example. If you're going to, let's say, and you work with a lot of Fortune 500 companies, let's say if you're going to a financial services company, uh, their core banking system isn't on COBOL or mainframe, and they've been running that since 1980s. I mean, that's still today happening. And they have a new CTO who gets a mandate that you have to be a AI forward organization. And the boards are now asking us to modernize. And they have three pilots. AI pilot could be one in fraud detection, one in customer service, and one in risk modeling. And none of them are in production. And they call you for advice. What would be the first question you would ask them to see if they're going in the right direction or not?
Yeah, so first is when we look at the large organization, the code sitting from the decades, first is they don't want to touch this code, and that's what it is there because of over 3-4 decades, multiple layers have been there. There is a huge stack there. Okay, so maybe they have no idea what black box they are touching, and
Right.
if they will, so they first want to rip it open and see, okay, what kind of things I'm getting into it, right? So my first advice to them, okay, let's look at this black box. It may be the 50 million or 100 million line of code. I'm telling you the realistic data, right? That is on an average code is sitting in the large financial institute, almost 100 million line of code. And they want to look, okay, what is inside it, right? So that's what we think that where is the hard problem to solve, right? Everyone is building the chatbot. AI is generating some context, some summary for it, right? But we see that, okay, if I'm putting this huge code base, how I'm going to help the large organization? And that's where what AWS Transform does actually take this code, it go through these millions of lines of code inside it, it iterate through it, and it create a knowledge graph, and it build a technical documentation, functional documentation, business rule extraction, and kind of give them, hey, these are the documentation are there because no one has documented that, right? So you
Right.
look at these are your code doing these 10 different things, and these are the dead code sitting there, which is not doing anything, which may have been doing something like 30 years ago, but it is no more relevant. Here is the, and then they first need to do the proper assessment looks, which are the application which makes sense in terms of moving to the production and creating a proof point. So start small, start with the one applications. And as you said about maybe the fraud detection application or maybe the payment application, and build that proof point there and taking it that to the production, and then it will follow, our learning will feed back into our overall architecture, and then it will follow more and more application, we can expand it, and some customer we are doing it successfully, if you will see. And it is working well, but it is not only the technology upgrade, it is the learning cycle. It is also how the currently, if you will see that GPU is not scared, the infrastructure
Right.
is available. The scared things is the knowledge, right? Where you have the technology and domain knowledge is cross section, right? Whatever, there is same technology, same agent will design very different finance versus automotive, or within the finance, banking versus payment, or versus wealth management. So that knowledge also need to feed into it, And after doing the proper assessment, they need to look, okay, let's decompose the application prioritization, and they then go from there.
Yeah, no, I think that's what you want to have a real conversation. Even if they're not hiring someone externally, internal leaders need to think about, how are we really looking at, as you said, where is the knowledge graph coming from,
Mhm.
But what I want to really talk about, that's something actually I think is the hardest problem, and nobody wants to put that on the agenda, is that there's about 30-point perception gap right now between the C-suite leader that describe their AI adoption and how their own employees describe it. So there's a little gap. In same company, about 75% of the executives might be saying it's working, and 45% employees will agree out of that. And 42% of the executives might say that AI is actively creating internal tension inside the organization. And that's, is what you've been hearing. I've been hearing from a lot of the employees. You've been a forward deployed, embedded with customers. You're not just advising your customers, and you've been in these rooms where you probably see this kind of tension, which seem to be real. Where do you, maybe an example where you walked into a customer situation and realized that technology was the least of their problem? What was
Mhm.
actually going on? And in that moment, what did you say? Did you stay on the lane of technology, or you had to probably shift to somewhere else?
So glad you asked that question. And the fun part of it, I will tell you, most of the time, problem is never technical,
Yeah,
right? In the adoption, it's always organizational, and it comes with the multiple factor. First is the compliances gap, because they say, oh, what will happen with my compliances if I will bring with the FSI compliances and ban compliances with FSI, or PCI DSS, or the HIPAA compliances with the uh, with uh, HCL as a healthcare. So that is one. Second is the legacy ownership is also there. So people who are owning these application from long time, they have kind of fear. Okay, okay, is it going to replace me, or it is going to evolve me, right? So that is, I see that one organizational problem. Second is the, if we are going and just talking the plain vanilla tech, as I said, it is not going to work, because the same tech apply in different industry, and it is totally architectural different, FSI versus automotive versus healthcare. And the third is the you go and trust, or you earn the trust in the field when you are sitting with the customer at with their team. And I think that's where the team is going and sitting with them, because whatever work in the slide decks, that may not work in the field. And when you
that's
go
right.
into the field, you immediately get the feedback loop. Uh, Okay, so the product has promised that, but if once it goes and tested through hundred of millions of lines of code, oh, these things is not working what is supposed to. So immediately feedback you get. So that's what I mentioned, that we have to get the first win, and then first win give the credibility, and then everything come after that. So adoption is actually a human problem more than it is the best technology problem, because best architecture fail without the adoption.
That's right. I
Yeah.
agree with you, and we've talked about it on the episode many times, that it truly is a human problem. We are trying to build this artificial intelligence, these agents, but if we don't get involved and we don't set the right agenda and we don't design it appropriately, even what you spoke about, the connections or what the purposes, what the new KPIs look like, we won't be able to create the success. And starting small becomes really important. Another thing which I feel is really important is um, having a clear communication with your board or your senior leaders, what the expectation should be. So, really defining that the expectation needs to be with a small win or which direction you're going in. A lot of times we start the journey and we kind of forget to communicate to all the stakeholders. So, I think over communicating, especially this is a new technology and they're hearing so much about it from outside world. And because there's such a new technology, you don't know if the impact is going to be the same. As you said, what's written on the PowerPoint might not be what the actual deployment would look like. So really, there's a lot of gaps. So having a constant communication becomes really important. as you're working with your senior leaders or peers or even the entire community for adoption purposes.
Yeah.
So I want to do
So
some. Yeah, go
I
ahead.
would like to add one more things. When you I hear from the executive often that how they convince the board, right? And today I see that the legacy modernization is not a technology problem, right? It is like how you are leaping towards the agentic AI, how you are driving the innovation,
Right,
because there is a three pillar there. If you will see, every board has the mandate to adopt the AI and make the organization more agile and innovative in behalf of the customer or behalf of the sometime it is competition fear also. And what is happening today, and it always tie up with the industry problem, right? How I'm reducing my loan processing per loan processing cost, or how I'm expediting my payment and reducing the per transaction cost. So that the conversation need to happen. How this line of business head getting the benefit from the technology modernization, and it is not about the going to the AI, but it is how the business outcome is coming. And third
right,
is at the bottom, this data is logged into the legacy technology. So we first need to unlock the data, and then this business outcome will fulfill on that, and then board mandate to go to the AI organization, more agile organization will work out.
right, right. That's true. Um, so on that note, I want to actually do something different. I haven't
Yes.
done this before in the episode. I'm going to give you some things that I hear constantly from technology leaders, and I want you to give a mm, honest opinion, maybe your reaction in one or two sentences.
Mhm.
I hear all the time, we're building our AI strategy on top of our existing data platform. What is it? How would you react to that?
I will react. Let's relook, because data platform need to evolve around the agentic AI. The old way will not work.
Mm. We are going to start with agentic AI in a low risk area to build confidence.
I will say that approach could be a right approach, but low risk but high volume. And frankly
Mm.
saying that's where it is working. So if you will see the internal code generation or reporting, right? There are lots of reporting or marketing, which is very high volume but low risk. I will say start with that, build the operational model, feed into your production playbook, and then go with the more complex.
I like that a lot. And let's talk about the boards. Our boards want to see AI ROI within 12 months. How would you react to that?
Within 12 months, it is possible, especially the advancement I am seeing since last 3 months. It is tremendous with all the new models coming like GPT 5.5, Opus 4.6, 4.7. They are really impressive. But these are just model. If you want to really see the ROI, don't treat AI as a separate team or initiative. Move away from that. Embed
Mm.
AI in every product and ops team. And then only you will see that how the ops team is using that to reduce the timeline there, or how product is using that to improve the customer experience. And don't do that building the horizontal platform from day one. Pick three workflow end to end, and make sure you realize the ROI from that. And invest in based on that, evaluate on your framework and invest in it. So don't take big bang approach and scale. Don't go for scaling without knowing it. First know it, pick the uh, identify the workload, and then go broad on that. And the ROI will start flowing. Maybe not the hundreds of millions of dollars, but within 12 months you will see, okay, this area I need to focus to get the real benefit, and then you can definitely expand, get more and more into that.
All right. And the last one, we are waiting for the technology to mature a little more before we go big.
I think that will become a lagger, because then you are falling behind the competition. And I think the time is now. If you are waiting, you will always be waiting, because technology is maturing every week. So just start it, implement it, and then keep maturing, keep the pace with the technology evaluation.
Exactly. I agree with you so much, Saurabh, because I feel like you're living in the world which is moving so fast. If you keep waiting, you'll never get there. So
Yes.
you have to be on that journey and start that journey to make sure that you're actually moving forward. And again, the infrastructure is really important. The data readiness is really important. Having the right use cases becomes really critical. But let's talk about 10 years from now. You're looking back at this moment, Saurabh, maybe about 2026, and there's going to be a story about who got it right and who didn't. Not a company story, it's a leadership story, probably about individual leaders who made the calls that mattered. What kind of companies, what kind of people, what would that leader look like? Not what they build, but who they really truly were. What kind of person makes the right call at this particular moment in the history? Who would that be?
So as I talked about, it is not about adopting the tech. It is about how your org in the organizational, each and every org is adopting it. So it is more about the organizational change and adoption than just adopting the tech. And how the operational model is shifting because of you are adding these tools.
Yeah.
So that is important. And you need to build a trusted infrastructure, which is about the governance, explainability, compliance, and then human for you need the human for the judgment, but most of the work should do AI. Don't over-index on the human and loop because otherwise AI will have no use. And finally, the how you are taking the institutional learning and creating that flywheel, and that flywheel as you are taking the learning, putting into your organizational operational model, getting the benefit of it, and again keep spinning it. So I think that's where the company success will drive.
You see a lot of organizations, and you're me talking to a lot of organizations. We hear in the news all the time how many jobs are getting cut right now. A lot of people are getting laid off, and software engineers are really getting replaced by AI tools that are coding now. What is your perspective on that?
See, my perspective is different, and there is different reason whatever is going on, right? Because of the macroeconomic condition or after COVID effect, I will say more than the AI. See, uh, if you will see that when people move, when computer got invented, right? People say, oh, now lots of people will lose the job because computer will do much faster. And earlier we need 10 typewriter, and now we one computer can do that. That is true, right? So it was a typewriter to the computer evolution. Same one when calculator got invented, right? Calculator will do much faster calculation. I think people who thrive, who learn the computer and drop the typewriter, and they are doing the better job, not just typing today, right? Same
Yeah.
with the AI. People who are going to use, who are using the AI, they are doing the better job. AI is automating whatever is already repeatable, and we are able to do the better job, the high value job where the more creativity required, and the same things is coming. So I will advise the people, if you want to stay ahead, learn how to use the AI and do the high value work and automate the mundane task with the AI already, and that will help. That is not going anywhere. AI is as an assistant, not as a leading you.
I agree. With that, we come to the end of the episode. Every episode of this show, I learned something. And today, what I learned from Saurabh is that gap between AI pilot and AI production is always, uh, about leadership. It's never about technology. It's about courage. It's about courage to tell your board the truth about readiness, the courage to slow down maybe, and or in order to scale up. We always talk about take a little time to think about, can't build something on the old infrastructure, courage to have the conversation, because I think that's the difficult part. Everyone in the room needs to know what's happening, and that's what truly I feel like the organization, World Leaders in Data and AI, is building for this community, these conversations, the people who are willing to go there and really take the responsibility of building something that we can scale. I think we all have the right intention. It's getting the right tools and getting the right communication and understanding these soft skills, the leadership skills that we need as we are building this automated engines that will scale our organization, that will create new business models. And I think this is the time we all in this field, I agree, a lot of people worry about AI coming in and taking their jobs. But truly, as Saurabh said, rethinking about your job and rethinking how you can use this latest technology to really, truly create the impact. Saurabh, thank you so much for having this conversation with me today and coming to the show. I really appreciate that.
Okay. Thank you very much, and I really enjoyed our conversation.
Thank you. And thank you to everybody
Yeah.
who's watching. You're not alone in trying to figure this out. We all are trying to figure this out. It is a very fast changing world, and that's why we are here. We try to share our information, our experiences with you. Hopefully that helps you. Please stay in touch. If there's a topic that interests you a lot, send me a note. And if you if you have a challenge, you have a story, please share that as well with us. I'm Asha Saxena, and I will see you next time at the AI Talk Show. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.